Hi Libra, this is your June 2025 soul story. If you've got a sun rising or moon in this sign, it's your reading. Thanks for joining me on the channel. It's Romy here. We are going to open up for you this month with the energy of the Queen of Pentacles. I think that this season you capture a spirit in yourself that you haven't felt for a very long time. And that, coupled with the growth that you are now bringing to the situation, means that you're going to feel really compelled to share, to teach, to lead by example. But it's not just that. I think you're also this month looking for the relief, that feeling of relief, and to know that those feelings are going to stay, that they're going to linger, and that they're not just going to be replaced by the fear or the anxiety or the doubt or the insecurity. So as you hold space for these two experiences to happen, you are able to find the harmony and the flow that June is offering. I think this is a month that can be incredibly progressive, but also one that helps you to really understand the concept of slowing down. Like, what are you rushing for? Now, I know we're going to be in Gemini season in the beginning part of the month, and typically that can bring through so many ideas, so much inspiration, so much desire to want to see what's next. But of course, we also have Venus shifting into Taurus on the 5th. And with that Queen of Pentacles, I think that the message for you personally is about slowing down. What are you rushing for? There is no race here. Who are you trying to compete with? Everything is right on time. And I think that that is an incredibly important reminder to give yourself, because in honoring that and in respecting that, you're actually going to enjoy the things that you are doing, the things that you have to do, the things that you want to do in a new way through the course of this month. Now, June's an interesting one because I feel like we have this harmony and this flow. We also have the big news of Jupiter shifting signs from Gemini into Cancer, exalted in this placement. So we move from a thinking to a feeling, and that sort of gut feel is incredibly important for you this month, right? You're in your 9th house energy, so you're applying the higher wisdom, but there's also something about needing to see the bigger picture and how that's going to help you not to get too caught up in perhaps some of the more temporary things that are happening around you. And just know in your heart space where you're being guided, where you're being directed, you know, is in fact something that you can, in a way that you know, in a greater way, I think, than you ever have before, like really go all in with, you know. There's less of a need for the external validation. There's less of a need for looking for the sources, the people, the things that are going to give you the answers, because there's just more of this remembering that's coming through within you. Now, the feminine energies of these queens coming forth, you know, are also very nurturing, and they bring a tremendous amount of compassion forth as well. I think sometimes, you know, life presents us with things where we just don't feel adult enough to make the changes, no matter what age we are. And there's something about you just being given that encouragement, you know, from spirit, from signs, from things that show up around you that just say, hey, you know, you're on the right track, or yes, you can trust in that. And I think that's going to really be important to you. But notice on the 9th, when Jupiter shifts sign, how that's changing the conversation for you, what it's feeling like. There's a cardinal energy to Cancer, just like your sign. So there's a need to take action, or a feeling of being compelled to start to take action. And of course, it's going to be moving through your 10th house. So you're set to see over the next year some really wonderful opportunities presenting themselves by way of your work, your purpose, and the mark that you leave in the world, right? Now, as we build up to the full moon in Sagittarius on the 11th, we come into the middle part of June, which is going to give us a little bit of a different flavour. Now, the full moon in Sagittarius is bringing something to a conclusion for you that I do believe will help you to feel a little bit more rooted and secure in something that you've been considering or reflecting upon. But what it will mean is that there is also a requirement to let go and to make peace with something. And perhaps you've been in battle with that for some time. Now, you might still be almost grappling with it when we then approach this sort of critical point in the mid-month where on the 15th, Mars in Leo is squaring Uranus and Taurus, right? We've got a security versus freedom theme coming through here. We also have Jupiter newly in Cancer squaring Saturn newly in Aries. The way that I'm really kind of presenting this for this June energy is that you almost have something old and something new. It's just like you're coming back around to something that you've experienced before, you've tried to resolve before, it's been an issue before in some way, shape or form with Mars and Uranus. But there's also something new that's coming in with that Jupiter and Saturn tenseness. And, you know, that can feel a little bit triggering. But what it is definitely going to demonstrate to you is the reality of how much actually you've mastered conflict resolution from where you used to be. Now, what you might find, I'm sensing, is that you could end up being a little bit at cross purposes with somebody. And there's definitely a lesson in this, but you do need to hold on to who you are, to what you believe in. So where this comes up, and it may well be connected into some family matters, it may well have a little bit of a flavour as some financial situations, okay? So not, you know, not in its entirety, but at the root of it, at the heart of it, it could be connected into that in some way, shape or form. So you're still trying to acknowledge and find resolution with that full moon. Then we arrive at this kind of speed bump in the road, if you like. So the trigger is felt quite intensely and it sort of consumes you. It takes up momentarily all of your time and energy. And that could feel a little bit frustrating as well, because again, you know, we found this flow, we've been remembering this part of ourselves, we've known what it is that we are meant to be doing or where we're meant to be, and then all of a sudden there's this sort of rude awakening or this spiritual slap that kind of feels like it comes in at exactly the wrong time. But actually, here's the thing. What comes out of that mid-month is incredibly important because one, you are going to find a way to actually make this work, right? Or it's going to resolve something that kind of sets you free. Now, the Jupiter and Saturn conversation, the new thing that's sort of come in around mid-month, right, is going to be ongoing, okay? So it's not like it just disappears once you sort of find that solution. This is going to make so much sense when you kind of arrive at this through the mid-month, Libra, okay? And it may be that you make a decision that you need to call time on something, or that, you know, there's perhaps an energy that you've been having to deal with, and maybe it's coming from within you, you know, part of that sort of victim energy or something that has wounded you in the past, and it's preventing you from seeing the bigger picture or from giving yourself permission to actually move on, walk away, let go. You know, and that's the thing. It's sort of moving away from what is familiar and stepping into what feels unknown, but is also completely divinely directed. Sounds easy, but it isn't. And, you know, I think that there's that wrestling and that conflict that's sort of playing itself out a little bit, that's also connected into, you know, this cross purposes energy. So it all comes up to be reviewed and reflected. But the thing is, we move through it. And Mars shifts into Virgo on the 17th, and it just feels that actually then the actions that you take, the next steps are quite measured. And maybe that's important because it helps to sort of slow you down in a little bit of a critical time, just so that, you know, you're making choices and decisions that you know are definitely right for you, okay? You may also, pertaining into some sort of aspect of work or the work that you do or the role that you are adopting in life right now, come to the clear conclusion that you need different, you need more, you need to express a new part of yourself. And again, I think that realization is going to be very powerful, but it might come about from being a little bit triggered mid-month. We have somewhat of a confusing energy on the 18th when Jupiter and Neptune get together, and it just feels like, well, I can't actually make sense of what is real and what isn't. You know, is this fact or fiction? And there's a sort of embellished energy to it as well. You've got strength coming through, and I think again that, you know, this really comes into its own when you're moving into that 10th house energy of Cancer season, which arrives on the 20th, which of course is also going to welcome in solstice for us, beautiful realignment and seasonal time of the year to celebrate. But I think, you know, what you are looking at is almost like a quiet revolution that's happening for you in, you know, how you're showing up and how you want to be perceived. And I think you're not necessarily afraid of being seen at this point, Libra. Perhaps you're afraid of being misunderstood. And, you know, there's definitely some questions that are surfacing around this time for you around kind of what will it take? But the little steps are adding up. And, you know, as you move away from what is familiar, you know, you're having to kind of hold that space for yourself and bring through the resiliency, the strategies, the tools, because there's some sense of one big leap into the unknown. And the thing is, the leaps are getting greater and greater from this point to the end of the year. We're at the mid-marker now. And, you know, as you look back on what has taken place in the first part of 2025, it's probably going to feel quite remarkable the way in which you've changed, your energy has changed. Life might look very different, and if it hasn't, it's about to, because there is this sense of splitting open and splitting apart and kind of transitioning from the old to the new. And so nobody sort of gets off like unscathed in that. But your strength energy just has a quiet confidence and courage and a realization that, yeah, you know what, this might not be easy, but I'm doing it anyway. And I think that that's the realization that you're arriving at. Now, overall, I do think June has a tempo that's easier to work with. And, you know, from that solstice energy, moving up to the new moon in Cancer, there's some beautiful astrological conversations coming in, especially on the 24th, right ahead of that new moon, with the Jupiter and, you know, Sun coming together. You've got the Seven of Wands, and it almost feels like whatever challenge, whatever it is that you're facing, whatever it is that's gone on to this point, that is in some way creating some part of you that says, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if I've got what it takes. I don't know if I can get what I need. Whatever that narrative is, there's something as you come up to that new moon energy that helps to dissolve it, and you realize that this is just a series of steps that needs to be taken, and every challenge can be met on its own merit and dealt with one at a time. And it's just about sort of simplifying. I think you're going to be looking at a lot more simplified strategies for yourself toward the end of June. Because we also talked about this, like looking for the relief and how you can hold space for that to linger, I think there's also a part of you that just refuses to entertain, like when the challenges are coming up, like you recognize them. It's not like you're bypassing and ignoring them, but you refuse to attach the anxiety, the fear, the internal criticism along with it. It's just simply met with a very sort of practical, like, okay, this is what needs to be done and this is how I need to tackle it. And almost like at times stripping the emotion out of it, but at the same time holding the emotional space for yourself in a very nurturing, compassionate, kind way. That is how I feel your strategy is deployed and is incredibly effective. And it's a sort of combination actually of your two queens, you know, this kind of stoic, resilient, practical approach to things, and the fire, the determination, the vision, the possibility, and the heart energy that comes forth. Right? But these two tens are also signaling that there's something that's really completing and coming to that point of realization for you that I can't really take this any further. It's gone as far as it can. And so what else? What next? What more? You know, these are the type of things that I feel like you're leaning into quite powerfully through the course of this month. So make that new moon really count for you, particularly as it pertains to your work, your career, things that you're looking to achieve. There's a recognition that wants to come in. But as I said, it feels like a quiet revolution with that energy of strength. You don't really need to shout about it. You need to keep sharing it, but it's just like not from a place of force. Like I said, this is a month of harmony and flow. Okay, so if you are new to the channel, the last 3 cards that we have, we're going to look at in the extended reading, talk for another 25 minutes or so, and we're going to look at a relationship and a personal question for you as well. So I hope you'll join me. You can support the channel and just get deeper insights to the month ahead. Just going to clarify these cards. Let's see the direction we're going to take this reading for you. Okay, so Queen of Pentacles, 6 of Pentacles, 9 of Wands. With a little perseverance, there is more available for you, more to come for you. There's another 10 coming in, but there's the aces showing up as well, which I really love to see. Now, if you're new to the channel or if you've been visiting for a while, please make sure you check out my website, right? You're going to find ways to have a personal reading with me. You're also going to discover my oracle deck, my journal, my book, all my sacred soul support, my membership, everything that I create that's designed to give you support on your spiritual journey. I love that fill coming in for you. That's beautiful. And of course, all the decks are always listed below for you as well. I think this is such a special time of year. You know, solstice has that radiance, that vibrancy, and that reminder to breathe differently. There's something to celebrate, and something that I think you will be celebrating actually as you make your way toward the end of the month. Let's have a look at Life Soul Vision Oracle. So this is my deck. And what do we have? The Collective Heart, Sacral Energy, beautiful. We've got Honesty at the Edge of Quiet. We've got a Queen of Earth again showing up, Crown Energy. We've got the Wishing Tree, beautiful. What are those big dreams? You know, it feels like it's important to return to, as you sort of recapture the spirit in yourself that you haven't felt for a long time. I really think that that's something that's going to land for you at some point through the month. You know, it's like, oh my goodness, there you are. It's been a long time since I recognized you or I felt your presence. What are you going to do with that? What does it mean to you? How does it change things? We've got Shadow Waters. Interesting. Okay, we're going to pull one more oracle to look at in our extended reading, Libra. Another energy of strength. We've got Joan of Arc in France. Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you. Have a beautiful June. I'm going to see you again next time. Bye for now.